G'day everyone, this is Rangadad, not financial advice, just the way I'm looking at the market. All right, ignore these trades, this is work in progress still. Yeah, look, it's been a quiet weekend, I would say. In fact, we broke back above this downward trend line again. Suggest that trend line isn't particularly useful to us anymore. But geez, depends whether you put that. Whether you put that there or whether it actually comes down into here. I'd suggest it doesn't really matter that much. Let's just go to a higher time frame. Typically, you'll get a better idea for trend lines if you do higher time frames on the close. So, yeah, we're actually forming what could be a bull flag here. I mean, we broke down below this trend line and retested it, and we're coming up to the bottom of this other trend line. So it's going to be a pretty good push to get through this, I would say. But this here is looking more like a bull flag every day or so that we keep going. All right. Now these can break either way. Either way it breaks. Typically, it's going to lead to a pretty decent move, I would think, if it plays out its full measured move. Just say we do it today. This is Sol, idiot. Well, hang on. I'll do Sol for us, because Sol has been a pretty good indication of which way the market's going to go. So Sol breaks up 317 potential. If it breaks down back into the she's sub 200, pretty well wipe out this entire run up. Let's do the same for Bitcoin, eh? Bitcoin's wedge is pretty well the same as what it has been. I wouldn't really change that, to be honest, unlike the Sol one. Bring it back down in here. So both have got pretty decent wedges forming. Best case scenario, I think, breakout to the upside, and we're looking at a bit over 114. Breakout to the downside, you're probably going to be doing it around there. Back into the 95s. All right. Realistically, this is either accumulation or distribution. We don't really have a great indication of what yet. The only thing we have is some of the higher term timeframes. Like, even we're sitting right in the middle of 50 EMA, the middle of the linear regression channel. 200 EMA just below is a good thing for the bulls. Start breaking below the 200 EMA from this level, given that we've held this for so long, then I'd suggest we're going lower, especially if we get a good confirmation and a strong move away from it. But yeah, that for the time being, we're above those levels, and that's a good thing. and realistically, it could literally go in either direction from here. The MACD is essentially flat, volatility's flat. There's no real signal on the shorter time frames. So when we come out to the daily, I'm going to get rid of this just because that obviously never eventuated. I'll get rid of this too because that still seems like a good buy zone. I just haven't seen that follow through yet. There's just been a lot of sell pressure above that 106 every time we've tried to get above it. So yeah, momentum on the daily is postured to the downside. BBWP is still decreasing, which you'd expect. There's nothing going on. It's still hovering above that 20 EMA, I think that is. Let's check that. Oh no, 5 EMA. So the 5 EMA on the daily is still just holding price up. Just going to do a quick. Yeah, so the 9 and the 13 haven't crossed yet either. 5 and the 13. I mean, that's still bullish postured there as well, just using the moving averages. So at this stage, again, I've moved most of my stuff out of or into USDT and just put it into Bybit and just taking some smaller positions. That allows me to reduce the risk in the altcoins that I was sitting in. Because if we do drop hard, they're going to get flogged. They're already, like, hardly any of them are near all-time highs. A lot of them are close to breakdown levels. So realistically, I don't really want to be holding them, and I'd prefer, if I'm going to back some of them, to just put low risk, sort of higher leverage, so small position, higher leverage, when I see them actually move. And that way you're kind of getting the best of both worlds there. Much better risk reduction than actually holding the alt itself, especially when we're at the highs here in the market so far. So not much of a read on that. If we go out to the 5-day, 5-day did kind of confirm this setup. So technically not really on that last candle. So the BBWP hadn't got above the signal line yet. But stochastic momentum is significantly to the upside, well above its signal line. And if we close this 5-day period and sort of anywhere near around here, really, BBWP is going to be above the signal line. So that looks way more bullish than the daily, I would say. So not too much bearishness in this particular chart on the higher time frames. Weekly, bit of a wick to the upside. So if we do close somewhere in here, it's going to look a bit more nasty. But for the time being, still in the bullish control zone. BBWP is reducing, but a significant move to the upside would sort of turn all this around and potentially push us quite high. What we don't really want to see is a significant drop in the momentum on this and BBWP actually increasing. That would suggest bigger move to the downside. Let's have a quick look at the monthly too, because it's about to close in 5 days. Monthly's looking pretty good. if we did close higher than that previous month, which is sitting at the 108,421, that would be super bullish. So you'd be expecting at least another green month. So February would look green. And the problem is February on stocks it's not looking great. Interestingly, the monthly is ticking above the signal line on BBWP. So we're it's almost like we're in a similar position to back here, where we did have a breakout of a consolidation range back in September 2023. So yeah, potentially one or two more months up. I'd be getting pretty concerned around March if that's the case. Which I already said the other day that the week of 10th of March is uncannily on a time from the bottom of the bear market, or the first green candle in the bottom of the bear market, to the peak of the last two cycles. So just keep that in mind. Looking on 4 hour, we've had a decent reset in the cyclic RSI as well. So, and it's quite contracted. Whichever way it breaks from here, like we're pretty much coming down to the middle. It's even on both sides. Whichever way it breaks should be a decent move. So I guess that's the main takeaway from today, is that we are set for another breakout this week. I would think it's just a matter of which way is it going to go. This is the rainbow wave chart. Again, this, based on previous cycles, is kind of the target. Don't think that's going to happen this cycle. There's just too many issues in the banking sector and stuff like that at the moment. We'd have to have a pretty amazing turnaround, I would think. This particular indicator here, what is that? Oh, that's yeah, okay. They're not great signals, these ones, all the time, but that is suggesting downside. But yeah, look, don't think we're necessarily going to get close to that unless we get a move up pretty soon, up into the 176. Yeah, that's a fair way off, I would think. Just at pivots, we're sitting right on this pivot here too, and we are holding above it for the time being. So that's fairly bullish, I would think, just holding above this for so long. So the next pivot, if we do get that far, is at again 114,700. So that's very similar to the playing out of that bull flag. So interesting level 114. So stable coins versus Bitcoin, they've kind of rejected off these pivots as well. So if anything, cyclic RSI is probably ready to come back down on them. Total crypto market cap, it's actually bumping its head against the pivot. So a breakthrough of that could be quite good for crypto. I'll just go in here and have a look on these charts. Again, this being a lower high is kind of a concern. It is, yeah. It's not great. We'd have to see a pretty decent turnaround in momentum. for that to happen. What's the news? We got this durable goods orders. Wow, they're expecting a pretty decent jump in that. Interesting. You'd probably get it too, based on everyone apparently ordering before the tariffs hit. Interest rate decision. Yeah, I actually suspect the Fed may reduce interest rates, mainly because of the issues going on behind the scenes in the financial sector. GDP growth rate is forecast to be pretty low. If that comes in high, that could be quite bearish for markets, because it means the Fed has no reason to cut rates, which I'm surprised the Fed's interest rate decision is happening before that. That's interesting. They may take the opportunity to actually to reduce them before that read. Personal spending. Be surprised if that comes in positive. Again, that would be another reason. Like if that level is going up month on month, then it's another reason for the Fed not to cut rates. And core PCE is predicted to go up a little. Again, that would be a reason for Fed not to cut rates, which is just going to deepen the situation we're in at the moment. All right. Already done the stuff from Friday on the general market. Nothing to really write home about. Dixie definitely looks like it's rolling over. Pretty nasty weekly candle there. I try not to watch Eurodollar University too much, just because the guy's like super bearish on everything. But I find it handy just to know what he's looking at in terms of the financial sector. And he pointed out some pretty interesting stuff over the weekend, that basically topping signals. They have been topping signals across the last few years, and they are firing at the moment. I'm not going to go through it, just go watch the video. Eurodollar University on YouTube, but just bear in mind that if you go bearish when he's bearish, you'll go way too early. Just interesting to know what's happening out there. 10-year in China had a pretty big drop. 2 years still high. Oh, what did the UK 100 do? Yeah, it's pulling back. This to me is a critical retest for UK 100. If it bounces off that, then happy days. I think we actually go quite a bit higher. If it falls sort of below 822, 8,220, then it's probably looking pretty bearish overall for the market. LT's jumped a little bit, and high yield. High yield's probably getting close to a pullback here, I would think. But the fact the bond market isn't really having any issues with what's going on is kind of a little bit surprising. Yeah, not a lot makes sense at the moment. It's like the market's just waiting for an excuse to dump. As I said the other day too, sentiment is basically in the toilet on smart money. Still got a little bit to go. It can come down a little bit more, and typically, just looking at some of these other periods, it sort of can keep coming down as the market actually drops at the top as well. So what you want to see is basically these guys starting to buy up. Once we see them roll over, which we kind of did there, then it was a good suggestion that that was starting to top. But yeah, they're pretty much out of it now. Barnes Group had some massive trades on it. I don't know why, but the other thing to consider is just looking at the dark pool activity in IBIT. The fact that this one here, like, again, it came in at the end of the day. So these guys are, the dark pools are happening more towards the end of the day or at the start of the day. Okay. And the fact we haven't moved after this one, like we're basically flat since then, I think it's kind of a good thing. ETF inflows are still positive overall on the week. It's just the amount of trades that are happening at the highs here. If we break down from that, it's going to be a decent drop. If we break above these levels, then some of these are probably accumulation. But at the moment, if you got this many large trades at the highs and you're not moving a lot higher, that I would take as being more bearish than not. Okay. 17th largest trade on IBIT in history at the close there. Again, price action will tell us, but this to me means it's not really accumulation. It's more of a distribution. I would have expected with that many large trades that it should have gone up by now, but it doesn't really, I guess, it's not really forcing the market the same way that, you know, dark pools on a stock would. Yeah, I think whichever way we break, it's going to be a good move, sizable move anyway. So yeah, a bit of liquidity above here. A lot of the shorters seem to be removing positions. Well, there's not as much short sellers with positions directly above as what I thought there would be. Yeah, they're all above, or majority of them are above 107. So kind of aligns with if we break above 106 with momentum, then I would expect it to go pretty hard up into at least the 112. 114 doesn't actually have a lot sitting at it. 115 does. It's got some pretty big ones that have been there for a long time. So yeah, 115 would be the target for a breakout to the upside. Downside, I think you're looking, yeah, 95 is actually an interesting level. It has had a lot of large long orders come in that level. I think we'd sweep these pretty quickly. I think a lot of these would actually disappear as well. If we started dropping hard, which is typically the way Bitcoin drops, it doesn't drop super slowly. That's pretty unusual. And the slower the drop, the more likely it is to bounce sooner rather than later, unless it gets to a waterfall event. So yeah, I think a lot of these will actually disappear and it'll probably slide a bit quicker. 99 is still going to be an interesting level. I think it could find some support there, but we've been consolidating up at the highs for so long that it's going to move pretty hard either way, I would say. CBD on spot is starting to sort of decrease a little bit. So it's not really in support of a move to the upside yet. Did find a good base in around here. We haven't got back to those levels yet, so it's kind of positive-ish. And no real read on the funding rates either. Haven't had any real topping signals since that big spike a couple of days ago. This one, similar sort of story. The spot CBD is still, it's not really breaking down, but it's not exactly increasing relative to price either. And futures CBD is basically flat. If anything, it's coming back a little bit across this consolidation. Open interest, no huge read there. There has been a lot of green on the bid-ask delta. Not a lot of red since that last peak there, 107. So they dragged the price down, but they haven't actually been able to bring it down much below that. So that's kind of, I would take that as a bullish sign. Obviously a little bit of red coming in on the moves up, but there was a lot of red coming through previously too. I'd say that's more bullish than not at this stage. All right, let's go. 48 hour, it's pretty even. There's lots of liquidity both sides. So a move up, if that move up stops and like just above 106 and then pulls back again, I would say that's the sign that we're going a lot lower. Because I'd be surprised if it left that here. If we sweep down, pick this up, and then move to the upside, then that should actually be a pretty good sign that we're going into a little bull push. Over the last week, not a lot to the downside. Again, that 99K area comes into it. But yeah, there's a fair bit above. Go out to the 1 month. Yeah, there's pretty good target up around here. Again, that 114 comes into play. And as we did last time, you take these key levels and people start shorting it again, it'll come up and take those higher. So I would say if we do get up into here, into the 114, then I would say 115, potentially 117 would happen. And then over the next the next month or so, you would expect to actually reach a pretty good peak because that 5-day setup would be definitely in play, which would take us up into the 130s to 140s if it plays out on its average. And the 3 months, yeah, basically a bit lopsided to the downside, but in a bull run, I'm not worried about this until we start breaking down some key levels. But I reckon somewhere around 70 to 75K is going to be another pretty decent buying opportunity. If it, or when it gets there anyway. I think that's about it for today. XRP, quick look at that. Again, it's kind of bull flagging here. That's not that bad of a sign. It's doing the same sort of thing it did here before moving up and out. It has broken that trend line, but I'm not super concerned about diagonal trend lines at this stage. Probably going to have a bit of a flag in there, I would say, on the shorter time frames, and momentum's coming down, but it could quickly reverse that. This is why, like, a lot of these are at such key levels that if they break out, it's going to be a pretty decent move. Let's have a look how Melania and Trump are doing. Pretty shit. Yeah. It's actually holding a base. Some might look at that as a bull flag as well. Pennant. It's recovered most of this vector too. Trump. Don't tell me these things are going to turn around. If we get a major move to the upside and a confirmation above the 50 here, these could actually go pretty hard. Trump would have a target up around the $39 mark. Melania might get some resistance around the $3 mark, but first target's $3.30, and there's a massive red vector up there, potentially up into the $4.50, $5 area. I'd say forget about this unless we're going on a massive Bitcoin bull run. But yeah. Ethereum. I wanted to have a quick look at that too. So Ethereum's actually kind of broken out of its main one that I was looking at. This is probably a better trend line, to be honest. That will join up there somewhere. But again, you've got one to the downside as well. It's a bit of a flag here. Sorry if that's hard to see with all the stuff going on, but yeah, Ethereum doesn't look great on the daily. Still hasn't broken above that point of control, the volume point of control. Global liquidity is ticking back a little bit as well, so it's almost playing out a rejection of this previous trend line, which not a great sign. But the other thing was advanced decline line. I went back and had a look at this the other day. If it turns around from here, that's typically signal, like if we put in a lower high, that has actually typically signaled a bigger pullback in the past. So something like this, and then yeah, it pulls back pretty hard. So a break below from here, break below these moving averages, I'd be suggesting that's the start of at least a 10% pullback on the US market, which is probably, it's going to have an effect on Bitcoin. The same thing here. Big pullback. That was 2022. Doesn't always happen that way, but like you don't have to get the lower high. Obviously that was COVID, so a little bit different. Yeah, typically lower highs on this, lower highs on, was it Citigroup the other day? Typically not a bullish sign. So you want to see the advanced decline line actually making a higher high, which I don't know that it'll do, but we'll wait and see. It's just there's a lot of uncertainty in the market at the moment. So manage risk accordingly, I think. That'll do. I got some work to do, I think. People are still long on ETH. Holy shit. Versus BTC. BTC shorts are starting to climb as well, which you actually want these to spike, and then BTC will probably rip them new arsehole. No significant drop in BTC longs yet either. And that's kind of suggesting that these guys aren't selling yet at the highs. So they're either expecting a bigger pullback and they're going to build on these positions, or they're actually expecting a pump to the upside. At this stage, I'd kind of expect that to be more upside. There's a couple of signs either way. Really hard to tell, but we just want to see a breakout of these flags that are forming. If we can do that, then should be a pretty decent move coming, whichever way you go. All right.